They're coming. The girls are coming, and the fellows too. They're coming from the city, from the big cities of Europe, and they're coming from the villages and the countryside. They're coming by train, and they're coming by airplane. They come by car. They come because they don't want to be just hearers of the word. They want to be doers of the word. And they're coming because they know that Berlin is calling them. And they have heard that call and are responding to it. Berlin ruft. Berlin calling. Now these two young women seem to be lost. They're in Kaiserslautern in South Germany, and they asked, "Where are we?" And he says, "Look, you're on Mennonitenstrasse, the longest street in Kaiserslautern." And Mennonitenstrasse, they say, surprised. Well, look at that. And then they ask further directions to the Mennonite Voluntary Service Center. That's where they need to report. And as they walk along to get their orientation to go to Berlin, they actually see a sign to Berlin. What is that doing here? 684 kilometers from Berlin. But let's keep going. We've got to find the center. There it is. Oh, the Mennonite Center built by MCC and used by the local congregation too as a church center. And they're happy now. They know they'll soon be in good hands, and they'll get their orientation here at the MVS, Mennonite Voluntary Service Center. They knock at the door and ring, and who would come out but the director himself, Jörg Isert. Come on in. And he bids them welcome. Two Canadians. Most of the people working in MVS here are from Europe. In fact, this film is designed to recruit volunteers from Europe. They have a lot of work to do. There's the typing, of course, the letters and the reports, and there's the bookkeeping. This is a Dutch young volunteer doing the bookkeeping. And this is Jörg Isert now giving them the orientation. One of these volunteers from Canada is going to work at the Johannes Stift in Berlin, and the other one will work at the Lazarus Hospital. Special training is not really required for these tasks, but what is required is dedication and commitment to Christian compassion. That is essential. And of course they know that, and they agree. That's why they volunteered. There's no mistake about it. They are committed to Christian service in the name of Christ. And they'll give all that they've got. Compassion, service, dedication, loyalty. Now let's go through the details, he says. Your contribution is your service, no financial contribution. Your room and board is free. Your transportation to Berlin and home again is also free. And then your health and accident insurance, that's also free. That will be provided. And then you'll get pocket money. D-Mark, Deutsche Mark 60, about $30 a month. And you'll have 18 days of vacation each year. Now, however, we can do better than sit here and talk about it. Why don't you come into the next room? I'd like to show you a film. We have a film actually about Berlin where you are going, and seeing that may help you and be the best orientation we can give you before you actually get there. Turn on the projector, and here is the film, Berlin ruft. Berlin calling. The air bridge. It's the first thing you'll see at the Tempelhof Airport in that fateful year 1948 when the Russians blockaded all the roads and railroads, and there was no traffic into the city of Berlin at all. Only the airways were open. The scars of the war are everywhere. But Berlin has also been rebuilt, and very beautifully rebuilt. In Berlin, there's always something new to see, a lot of activity. A wedding, presumably. And what's that eagle doing with the man on a wheelchair? As he moves across the street, we'll notice on the right side there's an artist. Not all artists humble themselves and literally lay their art at the feet of the people. But he does. It's also an indication of hard times to earn a little money. On the right side, you see the coins. It says Danke, thank you. And there is the famous Kaiser Wilhelm Gedächtniskirche, the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church. And leaving here, we come to the world-famous Kurfürstendamm. At least it was famous at one time. But we're on the way to the Johannesstift from the airport, and that leads us past the Congress Hall, built after the war. But we need to keep going. We want to get to the Johannesstift, which consists of more than 25 large buildings and is located just on the edge of Berlin, actually in a beautiful forest. And we have arrived. And here is the famous, for us at least, famous Evangelisches Johannesstift, the Evangelical John Foundation. It's a center run by the church, and it's for the needy of the neediest people, and it's done in the name of Christ. And in the center of it all is the church, symbolizing the centrality of Christ. And this is where MCC is placing some volunteers and where we are recruiting Europeans to work here. Behind these walls, there's a lot of suffering and pain. There's much heartache here, much physical pain, mental, and also spiritual. Our volunteers enter a new world when they go behind these walls and enter the lives of these handicapped people. See the little girls coming? These are the children of the employees playing with their dolls. But that is not the way it is for the other children here who are not healthy, and we will see them in a moment. And here they are. This is why our volunteers have come to Berlin. Handicapped, suffering. And the parents just couldn't cope. The home situation was such that they couldn't take care of them. And that is why they are here. He's an epileptic. Now he's got a fit. Jesus said, "He who receives a child like this in my name receives me." Takes a lot of love and patience to work with these children. This is one of our volunteers. I believe she's from Ohio. She was there for one term, then she volunteered to do a second term, and when that was finished, she came back to Berlin to work at the Johannesstift on her own, made a contract with the Stift directly, not as an MCC volunteer, but still a volunteer. Radiating love and compassion. And there are adults here too. Ah, here we meet him, Roger. If I'm not mistaken, Roger, you're from Ohio. And he serves not with the children, but with older people. There are many, many, many of them here, totally dependent on the service of others. Unfortunately, for many of the regular staff, this is just another job. They work here for the money. There is, sadly to say, little compassion. And that is why the work done by the volunteers, like Roger here, has a double or even a triple significance or meaning. The director of the Johannesstift in a letter to me said that first, the patients receive loving care. And that's very obvious. And second, he said, the regular paid workers can see how it should be done. In other words, the volunteers are, as it were, models for Christian caregiving. And thirdly, he pointed out that the volunteers themselves learn and grow spiritually through this experience. And finally, God is honored. And here we meet Roger again. This time he's working with children. He's got a little boy, and it looks to me that he's going to have, what, a bath? Maybe brush his teeth, or just wash his face. That's it. Each one of the volunteers has to do a great variety of jobs. So Roger was with the handicapped old people, feeding them. Now he's with a little boy. And now, going up the steps, I asked Roger, how often do you have to do this? Oh, he said, every Saturday, once a week, wash down all the walls in the bathroom. The Dutch are not the only ones that insist on cleanliness. In Germany, in the Johannesstift, that was very clear. And that done, Roger says, well, if you want to see what I do next, come into another room, another part of the hospital, and he's at it. Why not? And while he gives a shave, he encourages him. Now, another service in Berlin is the short-term VS projects. This is done mostly by students. They come from all over the world, actually, from Europe, from North America, from Africa. They work only during the summer months, like this group, and they do something constructive. This is at the Johannesstift, but most of them are outside, like these are building roadway, a driveway on the campus of the Johannesstift. If you were there, you would hear all the languages. Mostly, of course, they communicate in English, but there are Germans there, and Dutch, Americans, Canadians, an African or two. Switzerland has sent some. France sends a few. It's a bit hard on your fingers if you don't watch it, but the students enjoy the interaction with each other, learning and doing something constructive, helpful, and not getting paid for it. That's the whole idea. They do get room and board, but nothing more. At last they have a little rest period. They work hard. It's not play. But there's always one in every bunch. He thinks, this is too dull. Come on, liven it up a little bit. And he's got his own peculiar idea of what fun is and how to liven things up. Well, fortunately, he picks on a fellow his own size. He thinks it's a mosquito on his back to chase it away. But now no mistake what that is. We'll get him. Get him, chase him, come on, after him. What is it, a German after a Dutchman or an American after a German? Or maybe it's French or Swiss. Now the Swiss are down and the Germans are on top. And there comes the Englishman. He is the leader of the group, and he says, back to work, everybody, back to work. Lunch period, the rest period is over. And so they pick up their tools and go back to work. However, there are also some of the volunteers in the short-term student volunteer, summer volunteer program who do not work outside like these do. We'll see them in a moment. They work inside because they have already some nursing experience. Some of them actually are nurses or nursing students. Meanwhile, these fellows here are tamping it down and rolling it smooth. The work that the girls and the others did laying down the stones, and now finally the surface is patted down. Here are those who work inside. They're part of the same unit of students, but as you can see, they are dressed in white. They are either in training or volunteers on the floor giving bedside care. And again, they share with each other. That makes it so interesting. A little bit of language problem, the customs are different, tastes are different, but they're young and they're all looking forward. Here is the supervisor, the charge nurse, and I think she's telling her, like the Dutchman said, your recess is over, time to get back to work. Bring the others. On a weekend, the volunteers take a look at the city. We've been told many times that Berlin was the greenest and most beautiful city in Germany. Lots of flowers and rivers, little lakes, and parks and walks in the woods. It is just a very beautiful city with these sidewalk cafes and stop for a cup of coffee. Everything seems to be just so wonderful. Yes, so wonderful with all the rivers and lakes and all the beauty that is all around, until suddenly everything changes and you see this ugly monument and you're reminded of the wall. The Berliners call it the wall of shame, and it is a shame. The sign says you're leaving the American sector in 3 languages, Russian and French. That is ugly. That is horrible. Walls. Yes, people have always lived in danger, threatened either by elements of nature or by wild animals, but never have people lived in danger from each other, quite like in the 20th century. Here they shot them. For every one that was shot, there's another wreath or another bouquet of flowers. The Americans patrol on the one side, and just as certain the Russians are on the other side. The wall of shame. I believe we're at checkpoint Charlie. Yes, this is the Allied checkpoint. Here you can go across. That is, if you're qualified to go across. Young people believe that you can build walls like these in a city, but you can't build a wall of cement and barbed wire through the hearts of people. They are confident. They are idealistic. And they believe in the love of Christ, that one day that will all change. 23,000 police since 1949 escaped into the West. And that's only a small part of all the others that have escaped. What a disaster. What an indictment of humanity. A wall right through a city of supposedly civilized and cultured people who love art and music. No wonder they call it always the wall of shame. Shame that they shot somebody here. Careful, Achtung, you're leaving West Berlin, and there is the famous or infamous Brandenburger Tor. And you know that the Quadriga up there, those horses, they keep turning them around. Napoleon turned them one way, the Germans turned them another. Every time the east wins, the horses run one way, and now they've turned it back. The horses are running west again, not running to Moscow. But you have to watch out. Vigilance. Keep looking to the other side. What are they up to now? Always the suspicion. But the young people believe, just as this monument up there is a beautiful monument of peace, so one day peace will triumph. Here's the Schaumburg Castle, reminding us of other days long ago. Still part of the Schaumburg Castle. And in Berlin, we also find the Mennoheim. It's a church center for the Berlin Mennonites. MCC and the European Mennonites bought it for the German Mennonite congregation after the war. And here, the VS people, the volunteers, are always welcome. John and Marion Friesen served here for a long time in Berlin in the Mennoheim, and so did other North American volunteers. Now we're still at another place. This is Friedensheim. Friedensheim, or Peace Home, is operated by the Beachy Amish. It started out as a relief center, and MCC supplied them with a lot of relief goods like clothing and food for distribution. And then it turned into a community center, especially for children, some handicapped and also adults. And here you see the children on the playground. They're at least off the street. They're taken care of and loved, sheltered, and also taught. Then this Friedensheim Center, which started off as a relief center and then turned into a social center, became an alcohol and drug rehabilitation center. At the same time, the other activities continued. And I suppose we should not be surprised that ultimately this kind of charitable work led into the establishment of a Mennonite church. So there you have it. Relief work, social service, drug and alcohol rehabilitation center, and finally the church. The children being taught the Bible, singing the gospel songs on the level of children. And they enjoy it. Louis Overholt was one of the Beachy Amish people who served as director there for many, many years. A Bible study. Bible study by the volunteers. It's necessary that they not only work together, play together, sing together, but also seriously share with each other their understanding of the Scriptures. What does it mean to be a follower of Christ? Why did we come to Berlin? What are we doing here really? How does that relate to our faith? What does the Bible have to say about giving your life in service for others? So you see, in Berlin you have the Johannesstift, the volunteers there, you have the VS summer camp, you have the Mennoheim, you have the Friedensheim, and here is still another activity in the Lazarus Hospital. I have no one to help me, said the cripple at the pool of Bethesda to Jesus. And that is still true of so many people today. In fact, the director of this hospital said that nobody wants to take care of sick people and old people. Nobody wants to help the handicapped and the helpless. And then he went on to say that we're now building hospitals and homes for old people, but they're nothing but buildings and institutions if there is no care and no gentle hands and loving hearts to take care of the people. And that is why the volunteers have come here. They hope that it makes a difference, as the director of the Johannesstift pointed out, that it does. My help comes from the Lord, it says on the wall here, and I've observed this volunteer going up and down 2 or 3 times already. She works on 2 levels. Now she's taking off the cast from one of the patient's legs. It's a long stretch from 6 o'clock in the morning till 12 at noon, but at last there's a break, the lunch break. And here they meet with the deaconesses of this home, this Lazarus Hospital rather, and enjoy their meal, the fellowship, and the free time until 3 o'clock. And they're back on duty again. From 6 till 12, then off for 3 hours, and now they're on again for another long shift. And she goes around, I believe she's taking orders, something that needs to be recorded for later. Up the steps she goes again to work on the other level. In Germany, nurses have to do more than just taking care of patients and the medical needs. They also have to take care of the place itself, the sweeping, the mopping, the dusting, and keeping the place clean. We're a bit surprised at that at first. In fact, we had some volunteers there who were nurses and who thought that that was not part of their assignment, but they soon learned that other countries do it differently, and if you want to be really in the spirit of those who wash feet, that's how you do it. Yes, the day is long, and the work is not easy. But when the basin is set aside and the towel is laid in its place, these volunteers know that they have not come here in vain, and it's a feeling of satisfaction. Jesus said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." And while she feeds this patient, she smiles at her. She talks to her. She encourages her. She's not there for the job. She's not there for the money. There's a different reason for her being a volunteer. And that makes all the difference. And the patients love it. And she's almost cleaned up the plate. And she says, "No more, please." But the volunteer says, "One more spoonful, just one more. And then you'll have a little drink." Yes, Jesus said, "Whatever you wish that people should do to you, do so also to them." The day must soon be over. It's been a long one. Oh, it's almost 8 o'clock. And so we say goodbye to the children at the Johannesstift and the patients at the Oh, here is Hans Schneider, and he's coming to say, ganz herzlichen Dank. Thank you very much for coming to Berlin. And he smiles. Thank you.